Hello, I'm Angeline Ong, and welcome to Beat the Street, so the show that gives you all the tradable news and data ahead of the Wall Street Open. Coming up, it's a big pharma focus this session, investors eyeing earnings from drug companies and more signals from Fed speakers for clues on the timing of the central bank's first interest rate cut. Speaking of drugs, Eli Lilly forecasting 2024 profits above estimates. This is on strong demand for its weight loss drug. And Palantir Technologies, its annual profit forecast beating the street as it reports its first profitable year on strong demand for its AI products. A warm welcome to you and welcome to this edition of Beat the Street. Not long now before Wall Street starts trading, let's have a look at how equity markets are looking, starting off with the 15-minute chart of the Dow Jones Industrial, so you can see the amount of volatility we've seen just in the last few minutes. Let's have the hourly chart here for you, and similarly, we've seen this steady climb after quite a bout of volatility. It has to be said, though, from a high point, because don't forget, these indices on Friday reached new highs. But we're now seeing a subdued picture. And let me just show you the daily chart here. We're seeing a bit of a subdued picture as we count down to the open, as investors eye those Fed speakers and also the earnings, which have been coming out mixed so far at the moment, but still relatively robust given what we saw last week. Investors monitoring what these companies say against the backdrop of high borrowing costs. Of course, that inflation issue has not gone away. Now, there's no breaking economic news today, but it doesn't mean there's no trade around the dollar. You can trade that round the clock, of course, here on the IG platform. Here's IGTV's Jeremy Naylor with more.
Yes, we're seeing a lot of dollar strength. The original move in the dollar on the way down was on expectations that we could well see the Fed cut interest rates as early as March. That's now no longer the case. We're looking at a 16% chance now of any interest rate cut. You've now got to look towards May, the 1st of May meeting, to see a 55% chance of an interest rate cut from the Fed. So that's being pushed out. And as a result, the dollar has moved up. I want to show you the euro dollar trade in just a minute, which is my key trade. But I want to show you the dollar strength first of all, and a couple of other charts before we get to the euro dollar. Look at this strength that we've seen in the last couple of days, on from that non-farm payrolls figure on Friday, and then we came above what had been this high that we saw here on this Elliott wave, the fourth impulse wave on the way down, and the full effect of the Elliott wave is now finished, but we've now got this move up higher, and we're now at levels not seen since the 14th of November in terms of strength for the US dollar. Now, this is playing out on some interesting trades. Look at this. Last couple of days, we've seen some really hefty downside for sterling. In today's session, we've got the first trades below the 200-day moving average, which is this red line, which is the first time we've traded below this since the middle of November, just to show you the sort of move that we've had. There is an opportunity to take this up at the moment, but I'm not quite sure where that's all going to go. And the other big trade, of course, is what's happening with the weakening Japanese yen. And in fact, in yesterday's session intraday, we went up to levels there not seen since the 27th of November for the stronger dollar against the Japanese yen. And the dollar's up against a whole basket of other currencies. But the currency I want to talk about today is this euro dollar trade, because we've got a total retracement of this move here. And in fact, intraday today, we have now pierced this line of support at 107.24. Now, that is significant technically in as much as we've tested the ground below there and there's been triggers to buy. So we've now got a little bit of a recovery on this. We've got a small wick underneath the underside of the body of the candle, indicating to me that people are buying this off the lows. That being said, when we get this move continue, and I think it's almost certainly going to, because I think dollar strength is certainly going to be the issue. I think the markets are going to have to contend with on a momentum trade that we've got coming in from where we are at the moment. Assuming we get a continuation of dollar strength, we'll get a full candle close at some point in the not too distant future below the 107.24, and then I'd be short all the way down here to 105.17, which are the lows that we had with this big hammer candle down here, down on the 1st of November, and that would be my price target. I'd only go short with a candle close below 107.24. At the moment, it's all about that dollar strength.
Thanks very much, Jerry, on that euro dollar trade there, which we'll be keeping an eye on very closely. Now, you've heard me talk about these weight loss drugs, these anti-obesity drugs. Well, more news on that today. We've got Eli Lilly coming out with a strong forecast. It says it sees a solid 2024 profit on rising weight loss drug demand. Of course, it makes drugs for the diabetes and obesity market and is currently pointing to the fact that the demand for these sort of drugs will still outpace supply in 2024. Now, Lilly's main rival, of course, in this market is Novo Nordisk. Just showing you Eli Lilly's chart here because there's a lot of correlation between Eli Lilly's share price and also Novo Nordisk as well. As you can see here, this is a one-day chart. It's been moving steadily higher. You can't trade this all sessions on the IG platform, but you certainly can if you call up your client manager to place a trade or wait till the cash session opens. Just showing you Novo Nordisk as well, because Novo Nordisk has done well in this weight loss drug space as well, and in fact created a moat to secure its jewel in the crown by buying, saying it's buying Catalent, one of the fill and finish manufacturers and producers in this space. And even then, it's saying that it could see still tight supply of those syringes needed to administer these weight loss type drugs. Now, this explosive demand is what is feeding the share price. And so where is the salad dressing, you're asking? Well, if we see demand continue and these drugs gain traction, we know that these companies are trying to see benefits in the fatty liver side of things. Also, metabolic dysfunction. They're looking to see whether there's any benefit, sideline benefit to these drugs in terms of apnea and also chronic kidney disease. And we see favorable test results from this and the ability for these companies to secure these fill and finish facilities. And we could see perhaps more upside because demand for this, given what we know, given the statistics in countries where people are perhaps more sedentary than they were 10 years ago, eating more, watching all that Netflix, then it's likely that the demand for these sort of drugs will only head higher. Now, just trying to also get a sense of where the movement is in terms of pre-market, we are seeing that the Wall Street, let's just show you the chart right there, we are looking at cautious levels at the moment. As I mentioned earlier, it does come from a high base because don't forget many of these indices, in fact, all three major indices, just showing you the US Tech 100 as well, and also specifically the S&P 500, which is called the US 500 on our platform. Well, if you look at the 15-minute chart, you can see here that it hit a new high that was on Friday. So come off a bit now, but it's still very close to the highs seen on Friday. Another stock that we are watching for you, Palantir. I believe that's all sessions, one to watch as well, because Palantir, let me just show you the top lines. Fourth quarter revenue growth, that's cheering investors. The commercial segment was the bright spot. Revenue for that segment rose 32% year on year. And this was thanks in part to a rise in demand for its AI offerings. The company posting $608 million in overall revenue, which beat estimates from LSEG. Let's just show you the reaction there. This is the 15-minute chart, but you can see quite clearly the reaction there. This is all sessions. We're showing you the 10-minute chart as well after those earnings. And as you can tell, we are looking, if things remain equal, quite a strong start there. That's the hourly chart. Now, don't forget NVIDIA, the poster child for the AI frenzy, also recently closed at a record level on Monday. And all this driven by AI. Palantir's earnings also driven by its AI offerings. And Hertz is also one to watch because let's just see if the earnings have trickled out as we spoke. Because when I checked earlier, they hadn't just yet. Hertz is one of the companies that we are hoping to get earnings ahead of the open. And I believe, let me just check to see if they're out. Yes, they're just trickling out as we speak. Hertz fourth quarter adjusted net income coming in at negative 418 million, and also looking at the margin there, 17%. Shares indicated lower after that bigger than expected fourth quarter loss. Ford Motor Company will release fourth quarter results after the closing bell. The estimate for the quarterly earnings and sales pegged at 12 cents a share at $43 billion respectively. Now this compares with EPS of 51 cents and revenues at 41.8 billion. Investors wanting to know how much car production was lost due to the auto workers strike earlier, and which began mid-September and lasted around 6 weeks. Electric vehicle production also a focal point. Mid-January, Ford cut the production of its F-150 electric pickup truck as it predicted slower demand and so slower growth, therefore, for electric vehicle sales this year. And this really mirrors what other electric car makers are also saying, that we'll still see the sustained transition to green vehicles and green transport, or renewable, more green transport. However, the transition will slow in terms of growth. Here's a look at Ford's hourly graph for you, the chart here on the IG platform. This is, of course, all sessions, and you can trade Ford all sessions on the IG platform. Now, China had a big update thanks to more reports of state help. That cheered investors in that space. IG's chief market analyst, Chris Beecham, has been looking at the reaction for us.
It was a very impressive session for Chinese stocks. The Hang Seng up almost 4%. The Shenzhen Composite, one of the main indices, up over 6% overnight, as yet more signs of support for Chinese stocks came through. The regulator saying look to get more state-owned enterprises investing their funds in stocks, as well as encouraging companies to begin more buybacks. So this builds on what we saw last week with the reports of $17 billion worth of funds being used to buy index funds in China, and really this support has led to quite a bit of a bounce for the Hang Seng and others, still firmly in a downtrend, however, so it is a short-term bounce. We'll have to see how far it goes, but unsurprisingly there are perhaps expectations that at these levels Chinese stocks are beginning to look cheap relative to the rest of the world.
And before we go, a last look at how the market is looking, and we're looking at a very tepid start, still minutes away from the open, but they are looking subdued with big ticket earnings like Ford in focus ahead, and that is out after the market close. And that's it for this edition of Beat the Street, the show that follows the trading action, helping you position yourself ahead of the opening bell. For more trading insight, do follow me on @Angeline on Twitter. This is IGTV.